Sammy the Squirrel and the Giant Acorn. Once upon a time in a lush forest lived Sammy, a small and mischievous squirrel with big dreams. Sammy wasn't like the other squirrels who were content with gathering small nuts and seeds. No, Sammy always had his eyes set on something grander, something that would make him stand out among the woodland creatures. One sunny morning, Sammy discovered a giant acorn nestled beneath a towering oak tree. Its golden shell glistened in the sunlight, and to Sammy it looked like the treasure of a lifetime. Sammy's eyes widened as he stared at the enormous acorn. If I could just carry this back to my nest, I'd be the envy of all the animals, he thought. He scampered over to the acorn and tried to lift it, but quickly realized that it was far too heavy for his tiny paws. Undeterred, Sammy started rolling the acorn, using all his strength to push it across the forest floor. As Sammy struggled with the giant acorn, the other animals began to notice. Bella the rabbit hopped by and said, "Sammy, that acorn is way too big for you. Why don't you share it with the rest of us?" Sammy, always determined, shook his head. "No way! I found it first, and it's mine." He puffed up his chest and continued to push the acorn forward, inch by inch. Further down the path, Freddie the fox, who had been lounging in the sun, perked up when he saw Sammy wrestling with the giant treasure. "What do we have here?" Freddie asked with a sly grin. "Looks like you could use some help with that." Sammy, knowing Freddie's cunning nature, quickly replied, "No thanks, I've got this all under control." But inside, Sammy was growing tired, his tiny legs ached, and his paws were sore from trying to move the colossal acorn. Ignoring the animal's suggestions, Sammy rolled the acorn up a small hill, gritting his teeth with determination. "Almost there," he whispered to himself, but just as he neared the top, his foot slipped on a loose rock. In an instant, the giant acorn tumbled out of his grasp and began rolling back down the hill. Sammy, in a panic, chased after it, but before he could catch it, he tripped and found himself rolling down the hill alongside the acorn. Faster and faster they went, tumbling through the bushes and bouncing off tree roots, until finally they reached the bottom with a loud thud. Sammy, dizzy and disoriented, sat up to find the acorn cracked open, its delicious insides spilling out for all to see. By now, a group of forest animals had gathered, watching the entire spectacle unfold. Bella the rabbit, Freddie the fox, and even some birds perched on nearby branches chuckled at the sight of Sammy's failed attempt to hoard the treasure. Bella approached Sammy with a kind smile. "Looks like the acorn was too big for you after all, huh?" she said softly. Sammy, embarrassed but finally seeing the truth, scratched his head and replied, "I guess you're right. I thought I could manage it alone, but it looks like I needed some help after all." The other animals, seeing Sammy's change of heart, offered to share the acorn. Together they all enjoyed the feast, each taking a small piece of the delicious treat. Sammy learned a valuable lesson that day. Sometimes it's better to share the big things in life than to try and take them all for yourself. And from that day on, Sammy became known not for the treasure he tried to steal, but for the lesson he shared with the entire forest.